You can do your job. Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Falcioni. Welcome to Live on Main. A special time this evening so that our guest can get his child off to sports. And that guest, by the way, is Selectman Brendan Tedstone, sitting to my right. And we all lost a dear friend, especially Brendan, with the death of Tom McIntyre earlier this year.
Yep.
And Brendan helped him out with a lot of projects around towns, a lot of these restoration historical artifacts. I wonder if you can kind of go over the process. How did we get to this point of naming the DPW, and what will the finished name be? Has that been?
So the finished name will be the Thomas J. McIntyre Town Barn. We incorporated the Town Barn because it was more kind of more towards the old Hopkinton. The name leaned more towards the old Hopkinton than today's DPW. You know, when Tommy was really active in that, it was the highway department.
Right.
And,
right. Yeah.
And so the Town Barn is kind of a throwback to the old days of when he was growing up, and when I was growing up, kind of getting acclimated to the town and working around there. So it's the Thomas McIntyre Town Barn.
That's excellent. I like that.
I love it
because that is the feeling when you hear that. You hear Sturbridge or something,
Yep.
or Old Hopkinton.
Old Hopkinton.
Like you say. So, is there a time frame on when that's going to be open?
Yeah, they're working on it. I mean, it's not going to be this winter. It's going to be in the spring at some point, I would imagine. They're going at it great guns. I know that we've ordered all the letters to make sure everything's spelled right and the font is nice and it's prominently displayed, and it was a pretty good process. It was a very eye-opening process for me, but it was.
In what way was it eye-opening?
Well, this whole policy of naming public buildings is a new policy to town, and it's something that was recently adopted by the board of selectmen, and it's for exactly this. And it wasn't, obviously this was created long before Tommy had passed, but it's created strictly, exactly for this, where this is a guy who grew up in town, his parents grew up in town. Generationally, they've worked selflessly for the town, whether it was Tommy working on the fire department for 50 years probably, no, 45 years probably. And then when he started his own business, anytime the town would need something, he would drop whatever he was doing and do it, whether it's Little League fields, whether it was the lights on the Little League field, the EMC park. If Bobby Bartlett needed 10-wheeler loads of salt or sand, he'd blow into Boston and grab the salt. It wouldn't make a difference. Hopkinton came first. Well, his family came first, and then Hopkinton came second. He was very, very he was very proud of his town, proud of his family, and so to be able to name him the DPW after him is, I'm honored to be able to have taken part of it, but it wouldn't matter who was on the board. Yeah, he earned every second of it. There was no favoritism. I didn't have to ask any favors. I didn't have to, twist any arms.
Yeah.
People that didn't know him were all for it. So.
But you led the charge, didn't you?
I did.
From what I've heard.
Yeah, I definitely did. I was, obviously, he fit all the parameters, but he died very tragically this year, even though it was cancer. But to me, it was very tragic. It's still very tragic to me. And he was taken. His son was married 4 days after his funeral, and his daughter was married just a month or two ago. And if you knew Tommy, his family was absolutely everything. He never missed a softball game, a baseball game, a hockey, a field hockey, anything that his kids did, he did not miss it. And it, just to add to the sorrow, was how close he was to being able to see the two prides of his life, two of his three. He was really head over heels in love with his wife Kathy. But to see him go just before that just adds to the the insanity of it all.
But the way you put it, in the way you're expressing how much his family meant to him, I'm sure they know that too.
Oh, without a doubt.
And they are comforted in their memories
Yep.
of what a great guy he was to them and to the town.
Yep.
And we have some photos when Dan, his brother, was here. We showed them too, but let's look at them again, because I'm pretty sure I don't see a real lot of work from this angle.
Yeah, this is the flagpole up at the St. John's Church, and I believe it's the St. John's Church.
No, that's actually
the Woodville.
That's on
Okay,
the
here's
right.
the St.
Well,
John's.
no, I'm sorry. You said church, but did you mean cemetery?
Cemetery. I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant the cemetery.
It is on that road.
Okay, so that's the memorial, like the marker, the flag is, and the picture on the left,
Which is now on the right.
Which is now on the
And they
right.
can see that now.
So that photo is the memorial for Fireman's Sunday. Fireman's Sunday is the second Sunday in June, and it's something where we as firefighters, past and present, get together at the fire station, and we march from the fire station up. And Tommy took a lot of pride in the history of Hopkinton and the history of the fallen firefighters, and on his own dime and his own time, and well, my time too, I guess, he created that. So the bell was an old bell that he found behind the Woodville fire station. The two stanchions on the right and left are old fire hydrants that Hank Fredette got him from the town. And then there's old fire hose that line the cobblestones around there.
Wow.
So everything is fire department related, and
Very thoughtful.
very thoughtful. He really put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into that. He took a lot of pride in it. One of the things that I'll never forget is at his funeral, I was actually the one that was chosen to ring that for the all out. So, although when I drive by it now to stop down to whoever I have to see at the cemetery, I think of that funeral. I also think of the time, how much fun we had putting it together. And the neighbor from across the street, as we were doing it, came over and was very concerned. Not Boo, there was another neighbor that lived over there. She was very concerned over what we were doing, and in true Tommy fashion said, well, at town meeting they voted to fund it, so every time noon and midnight comes, the fire whistle's going to go off and this bell's going to ring. And she was beside herself. It was classic. They were just, Boo was there, and Tommy and Joe Capobianco. There were 7 or 8 of us there, and just couldn't hold a straight face.
What a great prank, though.
Yep. Yep.
And you must and you drive by that and you see your work and his work, and you think of what you both did on that property and how great it looks now. I mean, that looks like brand spanking new,
Yep.
like it just came out of the crate. Yeah.
Well, you don't see my work. My work, I did the heavy stuff, the brainless stuff. Tommy did the design, and he's the one that I think I mixed the concrete and drove the backhoe up.
Nothing wrong with
And
that.
I think I went and got lunch and made people laugh. So that
Good.
was the extent of my work. You don't see mine, you see Tommy's work.
Oh, okay. And then the next one
Yeah.
is you helped him with that.
Yep, I sure
Maybe
did.
mix cement. Did you mix cement?
I
on
did
that
mix
too?
cement. I absolutely did. I remember it vividly. It was a chilly fall day, and we were waiting on Doug DeWolf to come up, and I was doing a lot of the grunt work. And he just, these crazy ideas would pop into his head, and the guy just, he could make gold out of straw, I think they say. This just popped into his head. He took a pencil and a piece of paper, drew it up, gave it to Doug DeWolf, and said, "This is what I want." And Doug DeWolf said, "All right, no problem." So he sent his guys up, and I believe that's a piece of granite from the old gazebo.
It is, according to Dan.
Yeah.
When Dan was here,
Yeah.
he said the same thing.
Yeah.
And I remember when they were demolishing it, that
Mhm.
it was very important to save that granite
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, and so he had, like, those gears in his
Yeah.
head were always going.
And it was always Hopkinton,
Yep.
Hopkinton's interest.
Yeah.
And what a great thing. And do you
Yeah.
remember the posts all around the old gazebo?
Uh-huh.
What do you call those things? They're shaped. There's a word for them.
Not the finials.
I don't think so. But anyway, there were like 80 of them or so
Yeah.
holding the rail up.
Yeah.
And I have one.
Oh, do you? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, we were gonna. Tim Kilduff had the idea of saving them.
Yeah.
And so we saved them, and then Judy was gonna, Judy Coffey at
Yeah, yeah.
Country Plus was gonna do something. It never worked out.
Yeah.
And eventually, whatever killed the gazebo was on a pallet behind my store, rotting.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
So
No kidding.
eventually, because nobody jumped on it. Maybe
Yeah.
Tommy would have. If
He
he'd
would
known
have.
they were
He
there.
would have made,
Yeah.
a ton of Hopkin and bowling pins out of them or something.
Do we have any more projects? Do we have a
Yeah, so this
oh,
one
yeah.
was the planter that he restored and had that all done. And Danny McIntyre, Tommy, Ricky Safaro, and I went up and moved this out on a Sunday morning, and bark mulched it, and it came out really nice. Tommy did a good job on that.
And I understand that's an old light
Ballast.
pole
Yeah.
bottom,
Yes. Yep.
and turned upside down.
Yep.
And filled with all that beautiful stuff. And I see I think it's the garden club.
Yep. Yeah. The
tending
Hopkin Garden
to it all
Club.
the
They
time.
do.
And they do a great job. Would you say it's in front
Colellis. I will always say it's in front of Colellis.
of?
I'm sorry if that offends people, but yes, it's always Colellis to me. Right next to Hitchings.
Well, I remember that too. And
Yep.
those were great times in Hopkinton's history. But now, at least you have more time in traffic to look
Yeah,
at
you
them.
can really peruse them, can't
Yes,
you? Make
yes.
sure the spelling's right and everything. Plenty of time.
And we had another thing I saw. That's how.
Yeah,
I
so
think-
this middle piece of machinery there is called the Scoopmobile. And this was something that Tommy's dad, Charlie, had and he used. And then when he was done using it, he parked it behind his house down on Elm Street. And Tommy, after Charlie passed, grabbed it with a crane, put it on his low bed, brought it up, and had it restored. So he restored it. I don't think it runs, but he had all the metal done on it and painted. That's a tribute to his dad, because his father was wonderful. Really, he was masterful on that thing. We call it the Scoopmobile, and that's actually what it was called. And if you look at it closely, it's I believe Charlie's painted on the door, and it says the Scoopmobile on it.
And what was it for again?
Loading trucks. That's how you'd load dump trucks
Oh.
when he first got started.
Oh, rather than like a case.
Rather than a front end loader,
tractor
yeah.
or front end
Yeah,
loader and all
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff.
That and the 922. The 922 front end loader. It's a rear wheel steering. That's what we all learned to run heavy equipment on. And he still has it. He still uses it, and he did restore it a few years ago. But it's something he uses every single day, or they now down at the pit use every single day.
Well, I see the next one
Uh-huh.
could be, with the expansion of the town. Of course, Woodville's not populating like the rest of the town.
Yeah.
Maybe they need a big project down there, sell
Yeah.
a piece of the Fruit Street
See if
land.
we can't get a big development going there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's what
And
the
then-
town needs, more development.
and then you'd be able to use the fire station
Yeah.
down in Woodville,
Yep.
because you need it.
That Woodville Fire Station may need some updating before people use it.
Yeah, good point.
It's a little bit outdated, but
Are
that
there-
bell is cutting edge.
Are there sleeping quarters there?
There are. Yeah, I believe it holds 4.
Wow, you wouldn't know that, but that is, what a beautiful piece that is.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't do as much on this one as I did on the other ones. This was, I don't know, I think I had a softball tournament, or I was away playing
Oh.
hockey or something, and so I did some with it, but not a lot. But I know that this is a bell that he found in the woods. It was, so the bell that is at the St. John's Cemetery,
Uh-huh.
that is the old bell from the present fire station. You'd be able to ring that bell.
Uh-huh.
When they did the remodeling, they got rid of that bell. This is, and that bell from uptown was
Uh-huh.
kept inside. This was deep in the woods. You just happened to be walking around.
Can I tell you what it says on the plaque?
Sure.
It says it's from the old Woodville Fire Station, I believe.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, but
This
if
is the
someone
one I'm
left it
talking
in-
about now.
Yeah. Oh, no
Yeah,
kidding.
they took it out and threw it in the woods.
Oh, jeez.
And it was behind the old, what's restored now, the Engine 7, the 1941 Ford that Tommy restored.
Ah.
So this was out there when he was looking to get the fire truck. He saw this and sent it out, had it glass beaded and painted, and
It's incredible.
it is incredible. He's a master at doing this
Yeah.
stuff.
And now, is that the one, or is that
No,
that
this
he
is
restored, or is that
this
a
is the
different one?
Diamond T. This is the old Engine 4.
Mhm.
This is a fire truck that went out of service because it was 1,000,000 years old. It's an old Diamond T, and the town traded it to Murphy's, which is now Bulldog Fire Apparatus, and Bulldog in turn sold it or transferred the ownership to Tommy, and Tommy keeps it inside, and it's a parade truck, and it's a truck that I use. The funny thing about that truck is Tommy and I were going to a parade in Millbury, and my wife was pregnant with my with my daughter, and we were going to Millbury in that truck. Tommy was in his restored truck, and he's like, "You got to be careful. There's no brakes in this thing." So we drove all the way to Millbury, all the way back with no brakes.
Oh,
Well, there was no suspension in it either. And
Oh.
when we got to Millbury and got back, my wife wound up going to labor a month early, and we had our daughter a month early.
Wow.
So
So
that
the
was,
ride helped.
the ride definitely was accelerant. Speaking in fire
Well,
terms.
yeah, accelerant. Yeah, yeah. So that truck looks like all the ones that Northbridge has in service.
I think that's Nick Danahy driving it,
Oh, yeah.
which is tied to the Colellas.
Right. Yeah. And I see the actual DPW is the next one.
Yeah.
We'll see, not quite finished yet.
Isn't that a phenomenal building? That's
Yeah, it is.
it's, from what I understand, there's lots of other towns that are coming here, taking pictures, looking at videos, checking it out, just because it's kind of a cutting edge DPW.
It would have to be. It does an awful lot in a small space, right?
Yep, it does. And there's a wash bay in there, so the benefit to this, even though a lot of my friends and people that I know and people that I don't know talk to me about that, why are we spending this much money on that? So one of the biggest selling points this has is that it has a wash bay in it.
Uh-huh.
So the last DPW garage, it was so close to wetlands, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, they shut them down from washing vehicles outside because the salt and sand would get in, permeate the wetlands. This has a self-contained wash bay. So now, and I will say this on record, so Mr. Westerling, I hope you're listening, we will not be replacing dump trucks every 5 years, every 7 years. You will
Okay.
wash them after every storm.
Every salting and
Yeah,
storm
when Bobby
and all.
Bartlett was there, not to compare the two, but when Bobby Bartlett was there, it didn't matter if you were driving, even if you just moved Cookie's truck at the end of the day, or whatever truck you were in, every day it got washed off, windows got cleaned, backed in, swept out, and those trucks, when they traded them in 15 years later, were still in pristine condition. And hopefully, and I say this all tongue-in-cheek, it's to Westerling, because I've had a talk with him, and he's as excited about this wash bay as I am, that these trucks will now last a lot longer. So
Well, how does the rinse get clean?
I don't know. I'm a nurse. I don't know. There's some filtration system in it that,
Oh, all right.
that filters out the salt, and
Oh, good. Good.
same as a car wash, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, car wash
Above
is-
my pay grade.
We should have a car wash in town too.
Oh, sure, sure.
Maybe over at Jerry's.
Yeah.
Maybe they might have room for it there.
No problem.
And but now I think with this, what's the town going to name after Bob Bartlett?
I don't know. We'll figure something out, because that
We
guy's
got-
deserved it too, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe it's just me because these guys are X amount of years older than me. But when I look at these people in town, I know the generation before, there were people equally as impressive and equally as influential. But I look at Mackey, I look at Bobby Bartlett, I look at Cookie Cumlin, I look at all these people, Mr. Lavoie, Bob Lavoie, all these guys in town that did things selflessly for a long, long, long time. I don't think we have enough stuff in town to name after them.
Good point.
But we're certainly give it a try, it's so nice to see Tommy's name on the DPW, and it would be nice to see Bobby's and Cookie's and Arthur Stewart on the fire station and Chief Bowker on the police station, or Chief McRobert, all these people that gave selflessly to the town for so long. And that was long before people were making money doing this. There's
Right.
there's people that are now going into these professions strictly for the money. These guys that did it in old Hopkinton, they did it because they loved it and they loved Hopkinton. And you know, you look at Kenny Clark, who's a real throwback. He's, you know, he recently retired as a chief. You know, he was my training officer when I first started on the fire department, and he preached and preached and preached. You never go anywhere near a building without an air pack. So, you know, we put air packs on, air packs on. First house fire I go to, he's running through the place with no air pack, like a maniac with a hose.
Gee.
You know, but it's in his blood, and that's a job that guys like this would pay to do, but in turn they got paid to do.
Yeah, you turn your hobby, your volunteerism into a paying thing if it's available, and people appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
When did you start as a fireman?
I started January 1st, 1989, and that was a volunteer, a probation. I started as volunteer. I went to probationary and moved from there. And although I'm not, you know, I haven't been officially on the fire department for a long time, I still feel very comfortable going down there. And you know, my son and I used to go down there on the weekends and have breakfast, and when it was nice out. And one of the harder things for me to do, I'm a very social person, very pro-Hopkinton, is when I became selectman, I had to distance myself because just, you know, for the perception, it wouldn't look good for a selectman going in there having breakfast. Same thing, it wouldn't look good for Brian Herr to be going in and having breakfast with the cops, or Catino going in and having breakfast with the DPW, or Claire. Anyway, you know.
Well,
so
you must miss that.
I do.
Yeah.
I miss it, but you know, when you think about it, you're definitely I'm still in it for the good of the town, for sure. Definitely in it for the good of the town, and I'm making a little bit more of a difference. You know, like all I did before was go in and bring them a couple of dozen donuts and some coffees and make them laugh for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now
Were you in on the vote for Chief Slimon?
I was.
Yeah.
It was the reason I ran for selectman. I disagreed with the, politically correctly speaking now.
Yeah.
I disagreed with the process, so that's what made me throw my hat in.
Well, that kind of made a lot of sense when you did, and my predictions for who was going to win and who was going to be chief all turned out right.
Yeah, well,
So-
you're locked on. I know that my wife found out about me running for selectman on Facebook. So that Facebook really, my wife and I, we really communicate closely on
Well,
Facebook.
I think it was. I think what happened is that you energized and you brought together people that know the town, have known the town, and have been here a long time.
Yep.
Like I'll never be in town here. I've only been here since '79.
Yeah, no, you're brand new.
Yeah, so I might as well have just moved in.
Yeah.
But you know, I think you're filling a need. You're filling a real yearning for the olden days of Hopkinton, the community atmosphere, and the volunteerism that we see from a lot of people, regardless. But still, I think that the people saw you as more of a protector of antiquity, of the way things have been and used to be. So
Well,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you, and take nothing away. And everything that you said is true. I am, you know, a fan. Like I walk down to Davis Road, and you look at these people, and these are the people that are living there. Are people that, you know, they belong in Hopkinton. They're people that I was friends with their kids or their grandkids. But take nothing away from guys like Brian and Todd and John. You know, Brian Hurd, Todd Sestari, John Catino. They're in it for the exact same reason. And even though, like, say Brian hasn't been in the town his whole life, he's got 100 kids, and they're all playing sports, and he knows as many of the, you know, if Brian and I form a team, there's no one in town that we don't know. You know, he knows a lot of the people that I don't, and I know most of the people that he doesn't, and so they're definitely in it. I just happen to hit a nerve with some of the old timers, you know, the legacies from Hopkinton.
Well, you said it better than I. Because I didn't mean to disparage them. I hope,
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh, no,
you
took
didn't.
it
No,
that way.
no, you didn't. But I didn't want to overlook them. It's
Right, yeah.
you know, especially when we're here talking about Tommy, the last thing you want to do is start taking credit for stuff you do. I'd feel a little guilty.
Well, congratulations, and you know, I'm really glad you were part of that. Really glad you were part of getting Steve in there as chief.
Yep.
And I believe fulfilling the will of most of the townspeople.
Ah,
So,
thank you.
thank you for that. And thanks for coming on and talking about Tom and the DPW building, the new town barn.
Yep. No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. This
Keep-
is, anytime I can come on and talk about Mac or people from town, I'm always glad to do that. It's makes me happy to do that. Makes me feel good.
I'm just making sure the mic's been on the whole time. And it has.
Good.
I hate when that happens, when you forget to put the mic on.
Yep.
Thanks again, Brendan.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure
And-
to see you again.
And tune in next week,
Yes.
Brendan and everybody else,
I never miss it.
when we have Carter Allen from WZLX will be here, and hopefully he'll be pitching his new book. Hopefully he has the cover all made up and so forth. And he was actually at the library a couple of years ago,
Yep.
pitching his book. Then it was about, I believe it was about BCN
Mhm.
and how that started and came about. And did you know Dave Lockwoodera?
Charles Lockwoodera.
Charles's brother. He used to live in
Okay.
town. He was big at the
Yeah.
gun club, Woodville Road
Yeah.
and Gun. And I know he passed on a couple of years ago. So that's I don't know if another brother or two might live in town, but
Well, he's got a
that's-
nephew who's a police officer in Sherburne that I got to know pretty
Oh,
well
no
a few
kidding.
years ago. Yep.
he's quite a character.
Yep.
So we thank all of our guests, and hopefully we'll see you folks again next week. Or you can watch YouTube and see this.
Yeah. Watch it
again.
every day.
Yes, yes. Thank you. All right.